Welcome to Africa Geotrends, your window into Africa's power, progress, and geopolitics. Asterisk before we dive in, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss the stories shaping Africa's future. The world is entering a new kind of energy war, not one fought with weapons, but with technology, sunlight, and control of resources. At the center of this transformation is North Africa, a region once seen merely as a supplier of oil and gas, but now emerging as one of the world's most strategic renewable energy zones, forming the foundation of what analysts are calling a $2.5 trillion shift in global energy geography. Europe's energy crisis, triggered by geopolitical shocks and aging infrastructure, has forced the continent to rethink where its power will come from. The European Union's climate and industrial policies demand enormous quantities of clean energy and green hydrogen, yet the land and resources to produce them domestically are limited. The result is an accelerating partnership between Europe and North Africa. The sunlight that falls on the Sahara each day could theoretically power the world many times over, and now governments and corporations are racing to capture even a fraction of that potential. Morocco stands at the forefront of this transformation. Its Noor Ouarzazate solar complex already produces over 500 megawatts of power, making it one of the largest solar installations on the planet. The country plans to generate more than half of its electricity from renewables by 2030. The Zlinx project, a 3,800-kilometer undersea cable linking Morocco directly to the United Kingdom, is designed to deliver up to 8% of Britain's power needs using energy harvested from African sunlight. If completed, it will symbolize a new kind of intercontinental interdependence, African electrons sustaining European economies. To the east, Egypt has quietly become a regional leader. The Benban Solar Park near Aswan produces 1.5 gigawatts of clean power, and the wind farms along the Gulf of Suez add hundreds of megawatts more. Egypt's government has also turned its attention to hydrogen, signing agreements with European and Gulf partners to produce and export green hydrogen and ammonia through industrial zones along the Suez Canal. By combining solar and wind resources with existing shipping infrastructure, Egypt aims to become a cornerstone of the global hydrogen trade by the 2030s. Tunisia is following a similar path. The H2 Nodos project, a partnership between TotalEnergies and the Austrian utility Verbund, is expected to produce around 200,000 tons of green hydrogen annually, with capacity to scale to 1 million tons. The project integrates solar, wind, and desalination technologies to overcome the challenge of limited freshwater in desert environments. Export routes across the Mediterranean are already being planned, linking Tunisian production directly to European buyers. Algeria and Libya, long reliant on oil and gas, are beginning their own transitions. Algeria possesses some of the highest solar irradiation levels in the region, over 2,000 kilowatt-hours per square meter per year, and its national energy company, Sonatrach, has started integrating solar generation into gas facilities to reduce emissions. Libya, despite political instability, has issued tenders for new renewable projects aimed at rebuilding its power grid and eventually exporting surplus electricity to neighboring countries. The numbers behind this shift are staggering. According to the International Renewable Energy Agency, using just 1% of North Africa's available land could generate nearly 2,800 gigawatts of solar power and more than 200 gigawatts of wind. Those capacities exceed what most of Europe can feasibly develop domestically. International investment is already flowing in. Italy's ENI has announced over $26 billion of planned spending in Algeria, Libya, and Egypt through 2028, and Gulf sovereign funds are targeting hydrogen production and transmission infrastructure across the region. Europe's dependency on these new energy links is growing. The continent's demand for renewable hydrogen alone could reach 20 million tons per year by 2030, half of which must be imported. The combination of North African sunshine and European technology is becoming not just an environmental solution, but an economic necessity. Every new cable laid beneath the Mediterranean and every hydrogen terminal built on the African coast strengthens an emerging partnership that could reshape the balance of power between the two shores. This cooperation is not without challenges. Financing remains complex, and political uncertainty can slow project execution. Building large solar and wind farms in arid zones requires careful environmental planning, including desalination and land management. Water scarcity, infrastructure gaps, and governance issues persist. Yet regional coordination is improving. The African Union's Continental Power System Master Plan envisions an integrated grid running from Cairo to Cape Town, and European institutions are now offering risk guarantees and blended finance to de-risk investment in African renewables. If current projects proceed as planned, North Africa could provide as much as 15% of Europe's total electricity consumption by the mid-2030s. When the trade in synthetic fuels, hydrogen, and related technologies is added, the total economic value of this corridor could exceed $2.5 trillion. The implications stretch far beyond economics. A continent that was once a periphery of global energy supply is now becoming central to the clean energy future, turning deserts into assets and positioning itself at the heart of the world's decarbonization effort. The transformation is also social. Universities in Morocco are training thousands of engineers specialized in renewable energy systems. Egyptian ports and shipyards are adapting to handle hydrogen exports instead of crude oil. Tunisian industrial zones are attracting foreign investors in green technology manufacturing. Across the region, jobs in renewable construction, maintenance, and logistics are multiplying, offering a new economic narrative for younger generations. Europe's reliance on North African power introduces new geopolitical realities. Energy diplomacy is replacing old narratives of dependency and aid. The partnerships now being built across the Mediterranean are framed around mutual benefit. Europe gains security of supply and emissions reductions. North Africa gains infrastructure, technology, and investment. Yet this relationship also creates leverage. Whoever controls the flow of clean power will influence policy far beyond energy markets. In the broader context of the global transition, North Africa's rise marks a turning point. For decades, the energy map was dominated by oil in the Middle East and gas in Eurasia. Now, the new centers of influence are forming in regions rich in renewable potential. The same sun that once scorched the Sahara is now the region's most valuable resource. Combined with advancing battery storage, high-voltage transmission, and hydrogen technology, it gives North Africa a strategic role in stabilizing not just Europe's grid, but the global climate equation. The transformation also signals a philosophical shift. Instead of being seen as a resource frontier, Africa is becoming a partner in innovation. Collaborative research centers between European and African universities are focusing on renewable materials, grid efficiency, and energy storage solutions. As knowledge flows increase, so does Africa's stake in setting the terms of the global green economy. The race to secure this energy corridor is intensifying. International companies are competing for contracts, governments are negotiating long-term supply agreements, and regional blocs are aligning policy frameworks. Behind the headlines, a new kind of power politics is emerging, one defined by megawatts instead of barrels, and by interdependence rather than extraction. The deserts of North Africa, once symbols of isolation, are turning into engines of connection. High-voltage cables now trace the seabed from Africa to Europe. Hydrogen pipelines are planned to follow. Trade routes once defined by oil tankers are being replaced by digital grids and molecular energy carriers. The energy transition is redrawing not only maps but relationships, economies, and expectations. The $2.5 trillion energy shift underway in North Africa is more than a regional story. It's evidence that the global transition to clean energy is not led solely by traditional powers, but by those with the courage and conditions to build differently. North Africa's vast sunlight, young population, and strategic geography make it uniquely positioned to shape the next era of prosperity. As the sun sets each evening over the Sahara, it powers turbines, lights homes, and charges economies thousands of kilometers away. Europe once looked south for resources. Now it looks south for solutions. North Africa is no longer a bystander in the global energy race. It is one of its architects, quietly, steadily, and irreversibly building the future. You've been watching Africa Geo Trends, where Africa's moves shape the world. If you haven't already, subscribe now and stay ahead of the next big story.